All right. So, welcome, people who have joined us to this conscious convo. So, I'm Kiah. I feel like everybody is aware, but I'm a spiritual life coach and energy healer. And today, I have the privilege of having Miss Charlmayne, the goddess, today
Hello.
on this live stream. And so, I'm gonna let Charlmayne give a little bit of an intro for herself.
I am Charlmayne the Goddess, owner of the Goddess Gateway, which is a spiritual life coaching and healing company. I really love people. Like, I love people. I love to assist people to raise their vibration and to really just create lives that they deserve and that they desire. That's what
Mhm.
I do.
Absolutely. That is what you do, and you do it beautifully. So I'm grateful that we're getting to have this time to talk because I mean, we have our own conversations, which are always really dope conversations, and we get into some really deep things. And when you talk to people who are like actively on their spiritual journey, it's like it humanizes your experience, but it also awakens you to the spiritual aspect of yourself of like, okay, they're having their version of their experience, but it's very similar because our goal is still to accept everyone and love everyone as we love ourselves equally and then return to the oneness. So with the journey, though, we're supposed to be sharing it with people and expressing it so that people don't think that they're just doing stuff by themselves. It's a lonely, dark road. So it really isn't a lonely, dark road in the grand scheme of things. But when it comes to the journey, it's so specific to people that I really like to ask and dive into it. So I feel like that's a good place to start. If you could share a bit about your spiritual journey and like how you began.
Yeah, so I began my spiritual journey. I began my spiritual journey. Honestly, as a child, I was always like wondering about where I am or why I'm here. Like, I would watch my family members go to work and come home, and on the weekend they would go to the casino, and I was like, this can't be it. So I started like searching for, I say, the journey to myself when I was 16 years old. But I always felt like more spiritually in tune as a child. But of course, that's weird. Don't do that. What are you saying? We're gonna go take you to talk to somebody. But the thing that really kind of, so that's where I was, and I kind of turned it off when the husband came and the kids came and the bills came and life started happening. But I got to a point where I was tired of pretending that I was happy.
Mm.
And I was like the ultimate people pleaser. And being the ultimate people pleaser, I was always like, well, I could just suck it up and just live the rest of my life like this. Or I could just suck it up and it'll be all right. I gotta sacrifice this lifetime. And then I was like, that's unsustainable and that's unrealistic. I don't want to have to suck it up. I want to be happy. I want to live my life the way that I want to live my life, the way that I desire. So I started working at an herb shop. It was the weirdest thing. Like, I didn't even have to put in the application. I walked in and the owner was like, "Oh, she got a body like a Lamborghini." And maybe the next 3 days, oh, he asked me to model something. The next 3 days, I started working up there. And then I started like learning about the herbs. And then different people would come into the shop and they were more spiritually inclined people. And they would say, "Oh, you're here to do this and you're here to do that." And I was like, no, I used to think that way. I used to feel that way. And it's circling back around. And I kind of dove into it and I decided like I got to do something different if I don't want to live a miserable life. So I started doing something different and then the right people came into my reality.
Okay. Okay. All right. So it seems like you were being divinely led. You know, that's what we say, divinely led.
Absolutely.
And you ended up just kind of breaking into it. Was there any fear associated with it when you began? You were just you just dove in.
I dove in because it was familiar from childhood. It was like, oh wait, I can come out now. I don't have to
Oh,
hide myself anymore. So it was really like, I'm coming out. It was it felt natural. It felt good.
yeah.
I wasn't scared at all. If anything, I was probably too eager.
Okay. Okay. Which is
Yeah.
probably for the best too. Did you grow up in a specific religion?
Oh yes, Methodist,
Okay.
Christian. I sang in the church choir. I lived next door to the church. I went to Sunday
Yeah.
school. I went to Bible study. I went to choir practice. I
Mm,
played hide and seek in the church. Like I was in the church.
yeah, yeah.
Easter programs, everything.
Okay. And then when did you stop going?
I stopped going to church when I was 25 years old.
Okay.
And I remember when I first met my husband, I was trying to get him to go to church because I was still going to Bible study. I was still doing all the things. And when I was 25, when I hit 25, something shifted for me. I think it was more of like the Pan-Africanism thing, because that's where my rebellion against Christianity led me first. And
Yeah.
I was like, power to the people. But then I was like, this don't quite feel right either.
Mhm.
And when I started making subtle changes like that, I was led to adapt a vegan diet, and I was led to homeschool my children and to question things. I would ask questions. That's the thing. I would always ask my grandma questions. Well, why does
Mhm.
God let this happen? And why does this and this and this and this and this and this? And if this happened, then why this? You don't question God. You don't question those things.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
was the type of person like, I can't ask no questions. I'm supposed to think, right? And when there were no answers to the questions, I was just like, you know what? I'm going to do my own research. And the
Yeah.
whole Pan Africanism thing, it lasted for about 2 years before I was like, I just like all people, not
Right.
just black people. I like all people.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I feel like that's a very similar story for people. Is it's a the religion is it's and there's nothing wrong with it. It starts off as a safe place of some type of
Hope.
intentional yeah, there's prayer, there are all of these things that are there, but then there's always something that feels a little like off. And
Yeah.
you can't put your finger on it because, like you said, we couldn't ask questions. I know for me, I grew up in an Episcopal church and church nonetheless, and there was, a lot of routines and ritual. I was an acolyte at my mom taught vacation Bible school. My grandma was in the choir. Like I used to be playing hide and go seek in the
Right. We in the
all throughout on
church.
the property. Easter, everything was church. Everything was church. And so I didn't really start to form my own opinion about whether or not I wanted to go until probably high school. So for me, it wasn't even really a spiritual thing as so much as it was like something I had to do because I was told to go. And I mean,
Yeah.
it wasn't all that bad, aside from when you ask questions and they were like, don't question. And so that did bug me. So there was basically things I felt that um the church would sometimes let things slide, or some stuff was like, oh no, it's blasphemy, it's an abomination. And I'm like, okay, so now y'all picking sides. Like 1 minute this is okay, 1 minute this gay guy can come, the next minute this one can't come because he's trans, so he's too gay. But then, we can watch Harry Potter over here, but like we can't really talk about magic. Like stuff was not consistent. And I think for me, that's really what led me to now say, like, I don't know what is for me, but I don't think this will be it forever.
Yeah.
Um, but to go, even further with my spiritual journey, um, I really didn't start off with it being a spiritual journey. It wasn't intentional. I had nothing really in my view about spirituality. I wanted a job. That really was the gist for me. I had been going through a continuous cycle of getting a job and then quitting, getting a job and then quitting. And it wouldn't be that I'm quitting just for quitting sake. It was more so like I would get it, I would get what I needed from it. And then when usually it was rather quick because I was always really a quick learner with things, but then it would run its course and I'd be done with it. But for people, they're like, you're supposed to be in this for 20 years. Put your head
No, I
down.
don't want to.
And I wasn't with it. It made me really, it made me sick at times. Sometimes I had to quit for my health, not even so much as it really being a choice. So quitting led me to now really getting into a place of being by myself. And then the pandemic happened. So I really had no choice but to be by myself. And I began to question things like, why do I feel this way all the time? Why do I feel alone in company of people? Why do I feel sad? You know, I knew of depression. I studied psychology and things like that. But there is high functioning depression. They don't tell you about that. You're in corporate and everyone's running on this wheel. I was living in New York, 24, 20. I was young and I'm thinking like, okay, this is the start of my life. But I feel terrible. I literally at some point wanted to just end it.
No more.
Right. And so the last straw was really me coming back to what I knew, which was religion, and thinking, okay, maybe I'm supposed to really be more inclined to do this stuff. Maybe I really should be reading the Bible every single day. Like I hadn't been reading the Bible in like years. So I fell back into those things that were comfortable as a child, which now opened me up to start to question things because now there are no constraints. There's nobody here to tell me you can't look into that. And so the universe started just giving me stuff. Everything. It started slow. It was like religion, and then it just jumped into woo-woo. And then it just became it spiraled into all this stuff. But with every bit, I just felt more and more excited, more and more energized, more and more fulfilled. And then eventually I started working with a coach who was not spiritual. Well, she was spiritual, but she wasn't a spiritual life coach. She was an alignment coach. So don't ask me how I even this is literally me following guidance because I just knew I needed to work with her because she was like, we're going to get you a job that is aligned with your energetic signature. Had no idea what that was because the only energy stuff I knew was like, I don't know. I think astrology was the closest and that wasn't even the full extent to it. Worked with her. And then from there, just starting with meditation, clicked things on. And then I started to hear. And then I would see things. And I didn't really have a full understanding of what it was. I just was going with it. I just wasn't telling nobody. I didn't tell.
See, that's why I messed up. I was telling people.
I wasn't telling nobody. No, I really couldn't. I barely felt comfortable with explaining it to like a close friend. So I was like, I'm not going to tell my family about this or anything like that. But eventually, you know, it spiraled and I got into spirituality, but it felt like everything that I did before then was gearing me up for this.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that sharing our journeys, there's starts to it, but it never really ends. It's just there are different versions of you that you go through.
Yeah, different cycles, but like you said, it doesn't end until
exactly until you transition.
Even then, it doesn't end.
Right, which is even further. So that gets me into like this truth cycle, right? You start learning all of these truths, and each one of them really shakes something within you, and then you like shed an aspect of yourself that no longer serves you, that is no longer relevant for your purpose going forward. So like for you, when it comes to like truths, because I'm sure there are some truths that came up, whether it's in the beginning, the middle, or even something you learned yesterday, is there something that you can share of a truth that shook you?
Oh, I got two.
Okay.
Okay, so I was working with a mentor. Yeah, I did her mentorship. I was working with a mentor, I think in like 2018, 2019. And at the time, it's just so crazy how the universe just brought everything together. But at the time, I had been working with her for about 2 years, and she was like, I don't know what to tell you, Charlmayne. The student has become a teacher. And I was like, no, there has to be more. Like, I can't know it. I can't know it. So my little sister was like, hey, I tried something the other day. And I was like, what you try, girl? She was like, LSD. And I was like, girl, you don't be a crackhead. And she was like, no, you should try it. So I was like, I started doing my research, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to set my intention. And I think I waited maybe a month before I did it. Now I probably would never do it again now that I know the truth that there's no separation, because my intention was to get closer to source or God. When I took my trip, I was music. Like
Mm.
my body didn't exist. And
Okay,
I
just
was
sound
listening
and
to music.
vibration.
I was listening to music, and then I was just like
Oh.
floating with the music. And I was like, oh, that's how we connected. Like everything is sound and vibration. So that was the first truth that kind of blew my mind open. And I was like, what? I'm really a magical being out here in these streets. The second thing, now this kind of rocked my world and blew my mind. So you know how a lot of people of color, they do ancestral veneration
Mm-hmm.
and they work heavily with the ancestors. At the time, my mentor was one of those people. And I was under the impression I had a whole altar and everything, girl. So imagine my surprise reading the source books and it going, no, you are actually not connecting with your grandmother.
Mm.
That right there, I had to put the book down for like maybe 2 weeks. And I was like, but I know I felt my grandma. But now I
Oh.
understand that it was the high angelic projecting images and um, things from her energetic blueprint. But that was the other thing that kind of made me go, wow, instead of dwelling on who has been and what has been, the key is to just keep moving forward, because although her body, she's not physically here in that body, she's
Mm-hmm.
probably back. Like the cycle never ends. So that made me realize that we are limitless and we are endless. Like we are truly infinite beings.
Absolutely. Yeah. That was along the lines of one of the truths that got me to the one about um there really being no ghosts. Cause
Yeah.
I feel like, cause as a kid, I was obsessed with reading ghost stories. Like I read like Goosebumps. I wasn't even like really like I was. Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Oh
Don't Look
my
Under the Bed.
gosh,
All
the
these shows, like
classics.
I used to really get into it, but it was always with no fear, right? So as a child, we forget that like a lot of the fears that children have are usually implanted. They're usually impressed upon them by the people that are around them, and it's not always with ill intent. Sometimes it's out of safety, and sometimes it's just out of general fear on their own accord. But for me, I had no fear when it came to this ghost stuff. I used to be reading under the covers in the dark, just going in. But I always had this feeling of there's more to it, and I couldn't get enough. Like it was like I couldn't read enough books. So when I learned that there really are no ghosts, it's more of like an echo of their energetic signature, it
Mhm.
gave me so much more context as to how these things work when people interact with energies, because it's really all energy, right? There's not the person that's there, it's their energetic
Right.
signature. And then you learn specifics about, okay, how long they can stay. There's a purpose for why they're staying. They're here to help their loved ones move forward after they've passed on. So that gave me the context of there's not no ghost gonna be out here jumping out behind you and scaring you. That's really just low vibrations trying to make you think that
Right.
it's something like that. What it is the energetic signature of your loved one. And they always usually have high vibrational intent to assist you in moving
And
forward,
moving
to assist the
forward.
people around them. So I got the clarification of that and got to remove the fear that was attached to ghosts and really understand what that meant and how it can help people going forward. So really that eliminated that fear for me. And I was like, okay, whew, like I knew it, but no one could explain it to me. And then
Yeah.
of course with church, they're like, there's no such thing. I'm like, but there's the Holy Ghost.
So tell me about
So,
that.
so tell me about that. So I'm like, it's truths mixed. And I think people over time, as things get passed down, things get watered down or changed, altered. Remember, there's so
Like
many different
telephone. Yeah.
translations, right? There so many languages that it's come through. Like, that's the power of really understanding that when you don't think for yourself, things can snowball into something that just becomes some mass exception. And so now when you're coming to be in your spiritual journey, you get to now tap into what it is that you feel when you receive information and use that as your guide versus relying on a person, a priest, a pastor, a book, right? So I would say the ghost thing was a big thing. And then also for me, that your reality is a reflection of you. Like, and I heard people say it, like, but I'm like, okay, whatever. That means I don't really understand it. But when I really started to pay attention to the things that I would do, that I would say, to the people that were around me, the environment that I was in, I started to realize, like, first of all, I chose all of these things to be there, which was another acceptance that I had to have for myself. I had to accept responsibility for my life.
That
I
was
had to,
hard.
that
That was
one,
hard.
and moving out of victimhood, right? Because I had been ingrained with the system did this and slavery did this and all of these things that did happen, but it's not my karmic weight to carry
Yeah.
and then multiply that into my own life, right? Because now I'm thinking I'm going into an office as the only and I'm pulling it all the way back to something in slavery, which really had nothing to do with me
Me
directly
today, right?
today, right? So I started to realize, like, sometimes you have to go back to even clear things that you received information from people
And
that
that you
you
accept it as truth. Yeah.
exactly, and then you begin to accept responsibility for the stuff that's happening, accepting ownership, and that helps you to realize your power so that you can now create what you would actually prefer. So I know that's a tricky one for people when you tell them, like, this is happening because you created it, right?
Because it's like now I gotta look and see. I wouldn't have created this. I wouldn't have chose this for myself. There is no way I would have wanted this. But then you have to really take accountability. Like, okay, I do think about this all the time. I am always talking to myself like this, talking about myself like this. I do believe this to be my truth. So
Mhm.
it's really like you have to deconstruct your whole narrative and then rewrite it with intention. And
Exactly.
once you do it, because people love to manifest the good. But that's exactly what you're doing. It's just what you don't desire because you're not aware of how powerful you truly are as a creator.
Right. Absolutely.
Intention is
And we
everything.
are very, very powerful. You're always creating your reality right now in this moment. You make a choice. There is we don't call it consequence or anything, but there's an action. There's a reaction for your action. So yeah, like it once you learn that, I feel like it opens up the gate for you to really just truly be the master of your life, right? The
Yeah.
owner of your life, the creator of your life. And that's another truth that was getting that really helped me was accepting my godlike power, right? Because one thing as a child, I would always get these information hits, we'll say, that, Jesus was always like, I'm just like you. You're just like me. When I was reading the Bible, I'm like, oh, he sounds like a cool dude. Like, he's non-judgmental. He's out here living his life, doing his thing. But he would always say, anything that I can do, you can do it. You can do it. You can do it. And so I would believe that. And I'm like, well, if he's a son of God, right? What does that make me? Not a daughter, a child? They say you're a child of God, which means if you are a child, you are an extension of your parents. Your
Yes.
parents always look, most parents, if they're at a high vibration, they look at their children and are like, shoot, wow, like what did and you have kids. So maybe you could speak more to that effect of really relating it to us being, God's ourselves, right?
I do look at my children every day and I'm like, dang, you're really half of me and half of your daddy. Like we really came together and created these beautiful human beings. But of course, y'all wanted to come through us. But I do look at them and I try to look at everybody as source.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's not always the easiest thing to do, but I look at them as source, and when I want to be a smother, I'm like, they have their own journeys. I
Yeah.
was the portal for them to be here. I'm here to guide them. I am here to make sure that they feel supported. but they have their own journeys. Even though they are an extension of me, they are source embodied, and that version of source, that fractal of source, wanted to come and have their own experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. God is experiencing life through us. The universe is experiencing life through us. That's the point. And all of our lives are valuable. Period. Like all of our lives are intentional, are on purpose. And although I know a lot of us, because for me, I struggled with like self-worth, self-esteem. Like, what's the point? Like, that's really what I was saying. I'm like, we're supposed to work all day? Is this forever? Like,
Did I sign up
about
for
20
this?
years. I looked at my 401k and I'm like, I can't touch it till 55. Like, what? But it really is tough for you to really get into this mindset or get out of it once you've gotten into it, because it's like sipping the Kool-Aid. And so I think when I learned about the power of your mind and about reprogramming your mind, because I had to learn about myself in the different aspects, right? I always mention too on my socials the fourfold being, right? Your spiritual, your mental, your emotional, your physical. It's they're together, but they are aspects that usually you have to spend specific time working on. Yeah, working on in order for you to make a true shift in its entirety, for you to really evolve. So yeah, the mental stuff will really I feel like it's one of the toughest. Like there's like physical emotion but the mental stuff,
The
stuff,
mental is like,
it's much.
but it's very doable if you are doing the things that you know are necessary to maintain a high vibration in each aspect. It is doable, but sometimes, especially when you might be extra emotional and you might let your vibration drop a little bit, and then you might get a little thought transference from a
yeah.
LV, and it's like, was that me?
Yeah.
Is my mind playing tricks on me right now?
Yeah, LVs meaning low vibrations. Yeah, they work overtime. And when you are making an effort to heal yourself, to work on yourself, to build yourself, to grow yourself, they come, they're really trying. And to me, I see it as a compliment.
Me
You know,
too, because it's like, we can't lose this one.
right.
But you lost
But
me.
you lost it. Your light is so bright that there are low vibrations that, yeah, they're gonna look at you as a threat. And so when we are out here thinking that it's really external circumstances out to get us, it's a combination, right? It's a combination of your choices, what you're projecting, your inner being, and then you have lower portions of yourself that really be trying to get at you to make sure you stay down. So that's how you realize how powerful you are, how powerful we all are, is when we make choices in this, it has a ripple effect. It can affect everybody, everything, lower, high, angelic, all of that. So it's important. Okay. So yeah, good stuff so far. But let me
Tough
go
girl,
into
good
this.
stuff.
Let me go into the chat real quick, because I wasn't even really looking, but let me see. Okay, so I have some people saying on Instagram, I was super involved in my church since childhood up until I finished discipleship training when I was around 24. Yeah, I was an acolyte. So I used to go to the acolyte festivals and everything. And I was in there. Listen, if I was gonna do it, I was gonna be the best at it. So that was that. They said us both are such a good vibe. Thank you, Haley.
Thank you, thank you.
They said, I see you, Angel. Absolutely different cycles. The melting into the frequency, that when you was giving your LSD example, I did think of that.
Yeah.
Melting into the frequency.
That's exactly what it was, what it felt like. That's what it felt like.
Yeah. They said those books scared me. Oh, in ghost stories, I thought it was intriguing, but I never really imagined myself in it. That's the funny part. I could feel what the character would feel, but it wasn't me. So I don't know if that makes sense. And someone said, same for me, but with movies. Right. This is why it's important to listen to your guides. Absolutely. Guides are, I think learning about guides, that was another truth that was for me, like, well, that you are never alone. So when I would hear you're never alone, I'm like, well, who's with me? be specific, right? Like I knew the universe and then we knew Jesus. That was it. Anything in between then. But
You know, even though I did grow up very Christian, I always knew that I was talking to angels.
mm,
But I would like have to sneak and do it in the shower or like if I was outside by myself or something because my great aunt, she was like, "You in there talking to yourself?" And I said, "Yeah." She was like, "Well, it's okay to talk to yourself as long as you don't answer yourself back." And I remember thinking like, "Well, did I answer myself back? Somebody just answered me back." And I knew then like maybe I need to keep this on the low. Maybe I need to
yeah.
not express
Yeah.
it so much. But I always knew like I knew I wasn't alone.
Oh, okay.
Even when my mentor tried to trick me and tell me you're alone, you'll be better off not here, etc., etc. I
Yeah.
knew like, no, I'm not.
Yeah. And I dealt with a lot of depression,
Yeah.
and that cycle will keep you alone. So, but it's always false, right? Like they'll say, you'll hear the voice like, you're alone, nobody wants to be around you, you're worthless, you don't need to be here. And if you are not careful, you will
You'll
sink
believe
lower
it.
into, yeah, you will believe it. It becomes a part of your belief system. And so, yeah, I had to be really, really careful with thinking that, because that is probably one of the biggest, like, not true. You're not ever alone. Like you couldn't even be alone if you tried. Like you couldn't, right? It's that OD. Like these angels and guides are serious about their stuff. And I am still that person that wants specifics always. So I'm like, who exactly is this? But I want to make the point, like, even when people ask that, you're not always going to get an answer. And
Yeah.
that's okay, right? That's okay. You have to accept, and that's another thing. You have to learn some things you have to accept as is, but you're trusting your feeling when it comes to it. If you are talking or hear something, you need to always ask, are you of light and love?
Yeah.
If you hear crickets, the answer is no, right? Usually you will get
Send them on their merry
send them on their
way.
way. Do not respond to, like, you hang up and you can try somebody else, something else, right? But like the guides will really, there you can feel the difference when you're being guided from a place of love as opposed to a low vibration that really just wants to keep you stuck and
Yeah.
miserable. So yeah, the guides is definitely a big one. Let me see. Someone said the victim mindset was a big one for me. Yeah, the victim mindset. That runs rampant, actually.
That's a big one for almost
That's the big
everybody.
one for almost everyone. Outsourcing the responsibility for how your life has gone.
Yes.
That is actually a trap, a cycle that they enjoy. And I say they because it's usually people whose intent is not of a high vibration, and they usually are in positions of power. So we just need to be mindful that,
Not to
yes,
give
they
your
want you to
power
think.
away.
Yeah, because when you act like a victim, that means there's an oppressor, right? There's someone that's, so they would love to keep that role, right? Yes, you're a victim, but no, the victim stuff is a trick, right? You are the creator, the owner of everything that is happening around you. You can choose what you subscribe to. And I know it is tough, but it does take practice. And that's really the only way that you'll evolve or move through something, is you have to be consistent with it. It's like showing yourself, promising yourself, and basically trusting yourself that you'll follow through on what you said you was going to do for yourself. So I think that the victim stuff is something that a lot of us are going to keep having to try to spin off. I think more so generational, it's a tough one. And so a lot of us now are breaking generational curses, traumas, karmic cycles. And it can feel like a large responsibility. But if you understand where you are and the access to resources and tools and information that you have now, like, you are placed divinely to be able to go ahead and break those generational cycles and curses, right? This is part of your purpose, right? But when it does happen, you get to enjoy the effects of it going backward and the effects of it going forward, right? Into your future lineage. So I think it's so much magic, so much love and joy that can come from accepting responsibility and moving out of the victimhood. So So that's definitely a big one. Let me see here. Having kids, the part about being kids. Yeah, so going back to kids for a second too, because I know that like a lot of people talk about these different waves of kids. The kids have different gifts, different, this generation is like this. When I went into corporate, I've always felt like there was a generational divide. And I entered corporate right when the social media stuff really started to kick off. So people were like, "Oh my gosh, what is this? What is TikTok, right? Like what are these things? What do we do with them?" Like you have whole VPs having meetings about how to use TikTok. So then you have the generations that come in and they naturally just pick up on stuff, right? It's not going to take them as long to do things. So with every generation, things get a bit easier, so to speak, in terms of shifting society into a direction of evolution. Because remember, we're supposed to evolve, right?
Yeah, it's
We
supposed
move
to
from
get easier and get better with each generation.
exactly. So I think we get to see that in kids. And so we get to take what we experience as kids ourselves. And then when we raise our own kids, we get to make the choice
We teach.
about things we want to carry
Yes.
forward or stuff you want to leave in the dust. So when it comes to you and raising your kids, how would you say like spirituality has had an impact for you?
It definitely made me not feel like I was not a good parent because growing up, I did not grow up with my mother. So I really didn't know because I did have a grandmother, but she wasn't my mother. So I really didn't know what a mother child relationship looked like, a healthy one at least. I didn't know what it looked like. Now with my oldest two, I was very low vibrational when I had them. And I kind of copied and regurgitated the things that I heard and did the things that were done to me as a child until I was like, that don't feel right. I don't want to do that anymore. And with my twins, I was on my spiritual journey before I had them. My oldest kids now, they'll tell me like, I don't know who this woman is because you raising them completely different. And they'll ask like on the way to school, they'll go, "Mommy, I'm gonna ask the angels for this and for that," and they'll do affirmations before they get out of the car. And it's just like this is the truth that they know since forever.
Mm-hmm.
So, and with the older kids, it's kind of like they weren't really heavily in religion, but they're not really heavily spiritual either. But raising children from a spiritual perspective, it always reminds me to let them have their journey, not to want to control them because a lot of people a lot of people have kids to control. I'm not your owner. I'm not your master. I am your parent. And I love you and I see you for the great creator that you are. And I know even with homework, I can't do it. Yes, you can. It's nothing you can't do. Like yes, you
Absolutely.
can.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it just
That's
makes
beautiful.
me honor their journeys more
Yeah.
because they are extensions of me, but they are themselves as well.
Absolutely. That's beautiful. Yeah, I don't have kids yet, but I know that the universe is setting me up with examples to assist me when it is my time. And so I love hearing you speak about how you are raising your kids, and everybody gets to choose the way that they do it. There's no perfect right or wrong way,
Yeah.
no, but we know from growing up what we liked and what we didn't. Right, there was stuff that, okay, yes, we knew we needed to get to be told don't do this or do that, but there's a level of hands off on certain places so that you can let them truly evolve into whomever it is that they came here to be. So that's beautiful. And I feel like for you, I always tell you too, like I know you're going to be out here helping parents, right? So you're as a spiritual life coach, it has many different aspects of how you help people, and for some people it might be in that aspect. So when it comes to like, I guess really what we should get into is, as a spiritual life coach, what do you do?
As a spiritual life okay, so when I was first certified as a spiritual life coach years ago, my understanding and other people's understandings was that I'm supposed to heal them.
Mm,
Today, I don't see it that way at all. As a spiritual life coach, I hold my light firm enough for you to find the light within you and for you to take ownership of your reality and create the reality that you like and that you desire. Now, that may look like facing some things that you have wanted to choke down. You got to bring it all up to the surface in order to process it and to release it.
right.
So I help you process those emotions, process those things, because it feels like a cycle. You feel like you're stuck in a cycle, you're stuck on a loop. I did this and I'm back here. I did this and I'm back there. A lot of people don't realize that they're holding on to things that no longer serve them. And I know that is overstated and it sounds so cliche, but it's true.
It's true.
It's
Yeah.
true. So I hold my light strong enough and long enough for you to find your own light. And eventually you hold your light firm enough to guide other people to finding their light and remembering the truth of who they are, that they are creator, that they are extensions of source, that they are creating their reality based on their beliefs, based on their thoughts, based on the words that they speak. That is what
Mhm.
I do. I'm here to remind you, to assist you in the process of remembering who you are.
Absolutely.
And of course, accountability partner is
Yeah.
always a good thing to have.
Yeah, because there is a coach aspect to it, right? Like
Yeah.
the greatest coaches have a delicate balance and they are able to use their own gifts because we don't think about this, but everyone is using intuition. So every type of coach is able to intuitively guide all of their clients if they are at a high vibration now, right? Because we have to remember to use that level of discernment when it comes to choosing who we work with, right? And as a coach, it's
And
your
making sure they're
responsibility.
ready. Because if I have to convince you, you're not
You're not
ready.
ready. Yeah.
You're not gonna waste
Yeah.
my time or your time. I'll catch me later.
Right. Right. Absolutely. That's a good tool to know if you are ready to work with a life coach because I've gotten that question before like how do I know if I need to work with one? Well, you're ready. You will know that you are ready and you will be actively seeking external assistance and then the universe is going to drop the right person who's had that similar experience that you've had. Y'all are probably not even that far away in terms of location. Like that's how specific they can get. If you ask, you will receive. And so
Yeah.
you have to be confident in understanding that it probably won't be in the exact package that you expect, right? But it's going to give you the experience that your soul needs in order to evolve. So a spiritual life coach like Charlmayne, you gave a perfect explanation of it. And then you added your essence, your touch, because that's what makes it a different experience. All of us have a specific energetic signature. We have our own way of assisting our others and we have soul contracts that we have with each of our clients to be able to assist them and give them that the little extra the extra assist yeah the nudge the oomph what they need at that point in their time. So like I said, for me in the beginning of my journey, I worked with a coach but she wasn't specifically a spiritual life coach. Nevertheless, she was one of those people that guided me to lean into spirituality when I was like, girl, I think I'm interested in looking up stuff with like ETs or like looking up stuff with like spiritual stuff and rituals, looking at stuff like I was going in on it, but I had a space, a comfortable, non-judgmental space to bring that to and for her to say, well, why don't you just lean into it? And she was one of those people that was like, maybe you should be a coach, right? So I'm in the same space. I really help people lead with their spiritual aspect so that they can create the life that's in alignment with what they really want to experience. So you're right. You work with different people and different people have different things that they need to release, but a lot of it is energetic release. You're making space. It's really hard to call things in if you don't have the space. You can't
Yeah.
add more water to a cup that's full with nonsense. The water's not even clear. It's dirty, right? Like we got to filter it out, clear it out and make space so that you can have what it is that you really desire. And that's really all I want. Everybody that I work with and talk to, it's like now that I've done this work on myself, I want nothing but the best for everybody. Even if you have a stank attitude, Even
And
if it's
that's
someone
okay.
that's not friendly, you're like, I really wish the best for you. It's all love, it's all light. So yeah, do you have any other inputs for like how somebody would know that they're ready to work with a spiritual life coach?
I would say the main thing is because I really wish that I would have found somebody a higher vibration sooner because I was repeating cycles. I was learning the same lessons over and over and over. So if you feel like you've been doing the things, you've been doing the work, but you find yourself feeling like you're still stuck in the same cycle, then maybe that's when you seek assistance from a spiritual life coach.
Right, right. Yeah. And it's something that you have to feel your way through as well, right? Because sometimes we get so desperate. And it's natural, right? You're in survival mode. You're just trying to get help from wherever you can get it. You might be getting 15, 20 different readings from a bunch of different people, right?
Right.
So it's an energetic thing, and you can feel the vibe with people that you should work with. Okay. So like don't always let the numbers fool you though. So don't let the numbers, the dollar signs fool you. Just because someone's out here charging thousands, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's the
That's
best
the
life
best
coaching
person.
for you.
Yeah.
Right. So you're gonna have a level of discernment with who you work with, who to guide you, who to be on your journey with you, but they will help you. So if you're like, this one's not working, that's fine. They'll send someone better, right? So okay, let me take a look at the comments once more.
And I feel like too, if you are even researching spiritual life coaches, then that's how you know.
There
Because
you
some
go.
people have no interest whatsoever in this.
Yeah.
So if your spirit is leading you and you're feeling called to work with somebody, look into it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we are great places to start. So I will say that great places to start. Okay, let me see here. Someone was talking about kids. The older kids got to see both parts of you. Allowing
They
your
did.
kids to find their spiritual journey was
They
challenging.
did.
I didn't want to force them into religion. Yeah. Yes, divine life coach. Hey, Dr. Dawn. Um, and it was the first time for someone else to truly hear what you said. Yeah. So yeah, I think that this specifically will be helpful because I know that people do need help, and so we will, as a society, we're going to see more people that are going to step out as coaches, and not just for spirituality. I think the educational system is going through a lot of shifts right now. And a lot of people are realizing that when it comes to what it is that they truly desire to know and learn, the information, the knowledge that they seek, it is going to come from the wisdom of a lot of people directly, experiences, right? It may not be in a classroom. It may be you working in a group class or in a solo session with a coach. But whatever it is, have faith that you are going to get exactly what it is that you need, right? Even the stuff that you didn't like experiences, it was for your highest good, right? You needed to know what you don't like in order to know what you truly do like.
Yeah.
So I definitely encourage people, if you're interested, you can reach out to me. You can reach out to Charlmayne. Happy to answer questions when it comes to this. We are also energy healers, which we didn't get into today, but I'll definitely be having you back. And we'll get into specifics about that because I know a lot of people have questions about certain modalities, how they work, and all of that. And I feel like
Well,
you are
let's
a
get into it, Kiah.
you're a great resource for that.
Let's
So
get into it.
so we've got, what are we at now? We are almost at an hour. So this has been beautiful and quick.
Keep it
Really quick,
simple.
really quick. But let me see if we had any questions beforehand. You see anything on your side though? Any questions? Just making sure.
Mm,
I don't have any questions on my side, but thank you so much for everybody who's in here commenting.
I do
Um,
not have any questions on my side.
okay, okay. Well, with that, I feel like this is a really good place for us to stick a pin because, like I said, this will not be the last conversation you and I will have. But thank you so much for
Thank
joining
you
me
for the
today.
invitation.
Yes, this was fun, and I definitely, yeah, I want to do this again. So why don't you tell everybody how they can work with you if they're interested?
If you are interested in working with me, you can visit my website,
Yeah, I'm gonna put it on
therealgoddessgateway.com.
the screen. Okay, so the Real Goddess Gateway
.com.
if you want to work with Charlmayne. Oh, we didn't get into another thing. You are also an author.
Indeed. And I just released a book about the cycles of the moon, the phases of the moon, and what they mean. I thought I had a physical copy, but I'm out and I need to order more. I'm also working on a book called Being Black and Spiritual.
Okay.
That'll be ready sometime later down the line.
Okay.
I also have my Hey Little Black Girl for the Unhealed Little Black Girl in You book.
Beautiful.
This is about me and my experiences and the things that I went through at a low vibration. Somebody just asked me yesterday if I was gonna write a part 2 because they want to know like what happened.
What happened?
So I think I'm gonna get into that. And I also have these self-love journals.
Yes, beautiful. I have one too. It is really, really helpful.
And that and the Moon book, they're available on my website too.
All right. Of course. So yeah, they're great books. Please check them out. Support her. You can get them on Amazon or on her website. And if you want, or anyone's interested in working with me, you can visit my website, harmonyvibecoaching.com, or the link in my bio, whichever one is easier. But thank you, everyone, for taking the time to check us out. Join us for this conscious convo. And I'm excited because this is the first of many. So if you are interested, put the bell, set the alerts, whatever you got to do, join us. But I hope y'all enjoy the rest of your Sunday. So we'll check you guys out later. We love y'all.
We love y'all.
All right.